In today's video, we're going to dive into the remaining two Bonesplitter Warclans. Those are the Icebone and the Drakkfoot. And there are only 3 of these little sub-factions for the Bonesplitterz in the Auric Warclan book. We already covered one, the Bonegrinz. You can find the link to that in the description down below, along with the rest of the Bonesplitter lore. But as I try to catch up and cover everything from the slew of battle tomes that dropped in the second half of 2019, I did not want to miss these. With every battle tome that has them, I love talking about the sub-factions. Because really what I see them as are these narrative examples of how varied an army can be, or how the environment around them can change a faction. It's like seeing one army through a variety of lenses. Some are changed by their environment, some by charismatic leaders such as the Bonegrinz, some by their physiology or ideology. As much as I love the basic lore for all these armies and spend an entire week diving into it in detail, it's those little things that make them different that make them a lot of fun, which I think is really where the sub-factions shine. And the writers must have had a great time with these. The Bonesplitterz are one of the most fun narrative factions that exists. So let's jump into it. Keep in mind, there's not really any art for these specific sub-factions, so I'm not going to talk about any specific units per se. So there's going to be a lot of just generic, Bonesplitter art in the background just for ambience, but realistically there's not a lot of devoted art and models for these specific sub-factions. We're going to kick it off by talking about the Icebone Warclan. Now, this Warclan originally comes from the sky-blind tundras in Gur, a fierce and harsh environment that is dominated by deadly blizzards. There's intense winds and these hardy beasts that survive there, and the Icebones are easy to spot, right? They got this green skin, dyed blue hair, and these swirling white tattoos all over their body. They want to stand out. It's anti-camouflage, right? On a white tundra, they stand out like a sore thumb. And they come whooping and hollering as they charge into combat upon their boar mounts. In fact, that's a really great place to start, right? They revere the boar above all other creatures. If you've seen the Bonesplitter models, you'll know that they ride a lot of those little boars for all of their cavalry options. And they view them as being much more than a beast of burden or simple mount. They see it as the perfect creature for surviving this environment, right? It's tough, it's fighty, it's aggressive, just like them. It's a beast worthy of an army dedicated to Gorka Morka. And their reverence actually goes much deeper than this because of their environment. And it's funny because the boar itself is actually built into their creation myth. In their traditions, if you don't know, I'm gonna pause here for a second, all these destruction factions have these very grandiose creation myths regarding Gorka Morka. My sense is they all have some element of truth, and then 99% of it is just absolute fantasy that is really fun to read. So we're going to talk about the Icebones, specifically their version of Gorka Morka, right? That he was wandering the realms when he came across a massive god-beast-sized boar named Shadowtusk. And he had this aura of frost and fur that's white as snow, right? Basically an embodiment of winter. And Gorka Morka fought and wrestled in this epic fight to subdue the beast. At one point, he broke off one of the tusks of the mythical boar creature. That tusk fell from the skies and shattered into 100 pieces. Those pieces became the magic-infused glaciers where the Icebone reside. And so this kind of myth that they have built around them, it goes towards explaining quite a bit, right? How they view Gorka Morka as their god. Obviously, he's just this stomping around tyrant. He just takes any challenge, kind of like the typical orc, just magnified to infinity. It explains why they live where they do. They think this place is the site of some holy, event. It's a place where their god has personally made a mark upon the realms. And it explains why they revere the boar, right? It's a beast that's worthy of Gorka Morka's time. It formed their home, and they're just tied to it from a historical perspective. And we'll transition now. It actually enabled their weaponry. Because beyond focusing on just cavalry, the most notable thing about the Icebone Warclans are their weapons made from jagged and sharpened ice. These weapons are hewn from the walls of the caves that we just talked about. This place that they think is magically infused, ice from a god beast, that kind of thing. they create crude, frozen weapons that never melt. Spears, daggers, swords, you name it, all that stuff is made from sheets of ice that have been carved out of the walls of their home. What makes these weapons so deadly is the effect it has on their enemies. When a creature is cut by one of these weapons, their muscles begin to seize and grow numb. Soon their limbs are kind of like internally frozen. The muscle and the tissue just freezes and they can't move. When you apply that to a faction that really focuses on an aggressive strike with like fast movers on boars, this becomes a huge problem because they can just run in, pin something down, and then swarm it, and that's how the Icebone hunt. Now, one thing I found really interesting, and was wondering myself, is the clan's relation to the Beastclaw Raiders. Right? What does this Warclan think of the Beastclaw Raiders? Right? When your whole identity and mythos and weapons are based around snow and ice and cold, what do they think about when they see these ogres that just carry that with them wherever they go? In fact, they look upon the Beastclaw with a level of divine awe, right? Not that the ogres themselves are deities, but they've been personally blessed by Gorka Morka. And Icebone tribes can often be found tailing Beastclaw Raider tribes as they move across the realms. And this is how you can kind of really easily explain why, even though this place has a singular origin point, they can be found all across the realms. They just get caught up following storms. And honestly, I was thinking about this. I can't imagine like a worse day. All right, say you're like a Cities of Sigmar guy, the closest thing to us in this universe here. Imagine the worst day ever where the freezing cold of the Everwinter comes, and then you have to survive a Beastclaw Raider attack, and then once you've finished all of that, then you have to face a Bonesplitterz Warclan just because they were on this snow train carving itself your way. That just sounds like a terrible day. All in all, I think they're a lot of fun. We'll talk about them when I wrap it up here at the end, but I want to move now on to the Drakkfoot. And I'm just going to say it up front, this is my personal favorite of the Bonesplitterz Warclans. The Drakkfoot, they stand out amongst the Bonesplitterz as being particularly strange, right? Peculiar for several reasons. First off, they're angry. Like, super angry. And all orcs are aggressive and fighty, and they have a social structure based on might makes right. But that has more to do with how they express themselves, or how they have fun, show authority. Straight vitriolic hatred and rage isn't a consistent theme in the average orc, but it is here. In addition to their notable temper, these Bonesplitterz are unusually, we'll say the word devoted or intense about Gorka Morka specifically. They see themselves as these great crusaders, right? So while everyone is trying to impress Gorka Morka or that kind of stuff, or do things that honor him or revere him, these are the ones who are very militant in their faith. They originated from Akshi, but have begun to spread out from there far and wide. Their prophets are absolutely tyrants of faith and fury. Remember, in Bonesplitterz, the Wargog prophet is pretty much he's the mega boss equivalent, right? It's the mage who's in charge, not necessarily the biggest and the strongest. And they beam with this eyes glowing, full of hate and awe energy. And they demand that every Drakkfoot orc work to provide a pleasing offering to Gorka Morka. It means, hunting the most intense beast, facing all the biggest challenges, everything like that. And see, while the intense hordes of the Drakkfoot are happy to fight an enemy or a beast like any Bonesplitterz would be, they have a special hatred for their preferred enemies, which are demons and spirits, so think Nighthaunt. To unpack that a bit, we need to talk about their home, which is the Ashland Gore Lakes of Akshi. We don't know a massive amount of information about this location, except that it's in the realm of fire and has been largely dominated by the forces of Khorne. As such, has been plagued for centuries by tides of demons, right? This is a place where Khorne's influence is so powerful that the wall between the mortal realms and the chaos realm is loose, and demons can pour in pretty regularly. And we're talking bloodletters, blood crushers, heralds, bloodthirsters, roving around for any survivors from the Age of Chaos. Or now, just armies of order for a very long time. They're just roaming around fighting anything. Okay, so Khorne is thrashing this place with an immense amount of demons. Well, when the Necroquake goes off, which has been an event we've talked about numerous times here, the restless spirits of all those people that they've killed here came back with a vengeance. just as they did around every realm. So suddenly this very specific location has a demon and night haunt infestation simultaneously. And these two forces have absolutely wreaked havoc on the hunting grounds of the Drakkfoot. Remember, their entire religion is about hunting huge beasts. Those are the offerings that the Urgot prophets demand go to Gorkamorka. The demons and the night haunt, they're scaring away the large monsters or taking them down, which means they're taking away the offering of bones that the Drakkfoot want to give to Gorkamorka. And the biggest offense, right, is that, say the demons kill a large monster that they want to fight, right? Okay, that monster is gone. We can maybe get some vengeance by killing the demons, but demons and night haunt don't yield any bones that they can offer up to Gorkamorka. So it's kind of this, it's like a double offense, right? Not only are you taking the thing that I express my worship with, but you don't even give me anything in return to make up for it. Now, stepping back a bit, we mentioned how these orcs are fiercely devout, right? They see themselves almost as these crusaders for Gorkamorka. And these forces, the Night Haunt and the demons, are making the worship of your deity impossible. And so the Drakkfoot have taken it upon themselves to defend their own hunting grounds, to purge the tides of demons and undead from their little slice of Akshi. And they found a natural way to adapt to this fight. The Wardocs conduct these elaborate dances for the boys, right? And he's able to whip up a lot of Wa energy into powerful blasts of fire, to the point where the demons' tether to the mortal realms becomes light at best. So he kind of weakens their hold on the area wherever these orcs are. And honestly, part of it is the Khorne demons want to fight, the Drakkfoot are happy to oblige, right? That's kind of the biggest thing, is just these are two super fighty races, and it only makes the orcs super happy to be able to fight Khorne demons. When it comes to the Night Haunt, there's something even cooler. The tattoos on the Drakkfoot are these red, cool, like squiggly lines, and they're made from the boiling blood native to their area. Like these big gore lakes, they call them, that kind of thing. And there must be some like residual power of Khorne remaining inside this material. Because of this, the Drakkfoot are unusually resistant to magical attacks. To complement that, right, and so again, the magical attacks thing doesn't matter with Khorne, he's not going to use magic, but it matters a great deal to some forces of Night Haunt. And in addition to that, their sheer force of will and rage and single-mindedness allows them to carve through ethereal forms of the Night Haunt as if they were solid. And this is an idea that was actually depicted in Soul Wars. It's been asked in the comment section of numerous videos of mine, where it's like, okay, well, if something's ethereal, how do any of these characters hit them, right? How does a character narratively take out a Night Haunt? And what the answer that we get was kind of alluded to in Soul Wars is that intense willpower and focus will allow a normal weapon to pierce an ethereal entity. So they're so single-minded and angry that they can do that. And that's their rules explanation for why they ignore ethereal. And so the bulk of this force exists in the hunting grounds of Akshi. They have this dual purpose of defending the hunting grounds while also seeking worthy beasts to offer to Gorkamorka within them. And that task can often lead them outside of this specific place, but I think it gives them a more firm tie to the realms to have them here. And I said that this was my favorite at the top of this section based on a few things. I think the color scheme is brilliant, like the green skin with the red tattoos. They have a huge focus on heroes and magic. And there's also some Khorne elements slipping in, with the nature of the blood that they make their tattoos with affecting them in a real way. I like it when factions have these tiny bits of crossover because it seems like they're actually interacting, right? Khorne did a thing, he poisoned the area, made all this blood nastiness, and they have an effect that another faction has responded to, using them, incorporating them, that kind of stuff. I love when stories do that. And so as always, I'm going to end this video talking about why is this cool? So now we've covered all of the Bonesplitterz specific clans in the Orc Warclans book, right? Like I said, link to the Bonegrinz down below. And what I like about the lore for the Bonesplitterz is that it kind of works on every level, and I think that's what makes the best sub-factions, and here's what I mean. The basic Bonesplitterz lore is fun and interesting, right? They're as wild as you want them to be. The army feels fleshed out. I like their spin on the hierarchy with the prophet at the top instead of the biggest and the meanest orc. And they're a full faction, right? Yes, they focus on hordes, every army should have drawbacks and stuff they don't have, but they are a full army. But just like the best sub-factions, these three takes on them, right? They take that core idea of what a Bonesplitter is and just put them through a fun and unique lens. What do those same orcs that are the base lore look like when their worldview is based on ice or snow, or the sole focus of their army is hunting, is threatened by demons and night haunt? The best sub-factions are those that they feel like they're giving you permission to make your own weird and wacky take on the parent faction, right? You know, your own take on Bonesplitterz, period. Because these are unusual circumstances, you get to think of others, right? What is a Bonesplitter horde based in shadow or light, where everything is enlightened, right? How can a faction that's all about bones of big monsters interact with the Ossiarch Bone Reapers? That kind of stuff. And to that end, I think they nailed it in this book, and why I think these sub-factions are fun as heck, and why I wanted to take the time to round out the Warclans book so badly. I still do have the other two sub-factions for the Ironjaws, which I will tackle very soon. Putting it all together though, the Bonegrinz, Icebone, and Drakkfoot, what is your favorite? I already spoiled mine, it's the Drakkfoot, far and wide. I think probably a number second would be Icebone. I don't know, I think about it. So go ahead and leave the comments down below, and I will catch you guys there. Thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.